Hello and welcome to another edition of World Cup Dish Out with me, Anirudh Menon, and our own football expert, senior broadcaster, RK. RK, how do you do today?
Absolutely brilliant. Just here at looks like football has taken over cricket, isn't it? Few boys knocking around. I've just asked the fielders to be careful so that we don't get hit. Maybe shin pads would help.
That's smart. India may be cricket mad, but it is going crazy over the Football World Cup. It's been insane. It's been an absolutely crazy 3 weeks. We have a brilliant semi-final coming up, Belgium versus France. How do you see that playing out? How do you see the tactical nuances of Didier Deschamps and Roberto Martinez coming to fore on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think if there is one thing that France has always complained about, or the French public, or people who have watched France, they've complained about, it's the tactical nuance of Didier Deschamps. I mean, he's always had the best of squads. Even in the run-up to the World Cup, in terms of qualification, he pretty much had everybody. But there were games where they labored to a win. With that kind of flair and with kind of solidity, you would have expected France to kind of do the job, as opposed to, say, Belgium, which is finally able to kind of find the link between the brilliant front three, as I would like to call them, and that midfield and the defense. It's far more compact, and I think the quarterfinals was a beautiful case in point when Roberto Martinez got it absolutely spot on. Kevin De Bruyne has been in the form of his life, so he was just brilliant, and he started up front. A false nine, with Romelu Lukaku. We've seen him operate that way when Martinez was the coach at Everton. So I think in terms of tactics, you've got a certain Thierry Henry there as well. So I think they've got it spot on. So it's going to be an interesting clash. Two very, very good teams going up against each other.
Roberto Martinez has got a lot of flack over the years for the kind of teams he's managed. But one thing he's always been able to do is manage a good cup side. He did that with Wigan, winning the FA Cup as well. But he has a very interesting tactical decision to make on Tuesday, because Thomas Meunier, who's been his outlet on the right, who's allowed Romelu to do what he wants to do on up top as well, is suspended because of his second booking. How do you think he'll adapt to that change?
I think one of the key things that, you quite rightly talked about Meunier, because that was one of the areas that was extremely important even in that game against Brazil. I felt, when the likes of Marcelo came calling, so I think the second half, I think we need to look back at that game and say, obviously Belgium were brilliant. No two ways about it. But having said that, I think Courtois was extremely good on that night. So the second half, I still thought it was a half that well and truly belonged to Brazil, because they were attacking. Marcelo was brilliant on that night. So it's going to be really interesting because they need to keep it compact. In terms of how you're going to operate with an Mbappe, who's going to come from one side, Griezmann is going to have a relatively free role there, and a Giroud is your point person at this point in time. And also, let's not forget, when you're talking about a Meunier suspension, we are also welcoming back, France will welcome back Matuidi there. So I thought, Tolisso was all right, but you didn't see the flair that France could have had with a Matuidi. I think it all started with Tolisso starting the first of those games. Giroud did not start at the first of those games for France. The minute Giroud came in, the minute Matuidi came in, I thought they looked a lot more solid. So in that sense, I think it's going to be massive. And let's not forget, with respect to a Fellaini there around that area, Mertens obviously is going to be there, or Witsel is going to be there. The pace of France is going to be one challenge that Belgium is going to face, because even against Brazil, when you had, I know they got Neymar all right, they did very well against Willian down Belgium's left, but I think in terms of pace, sheer pace, I think, and trickery, I think Mbappe has done really well, much better than Neymar, if I can dare say that. So that's going to be a real interesting, challenging battle, because let's not forget, the Belgian defenders and that midfield are not the swiftest. So they are still not the quickest. So that's going to be one area of interesting battle there.
Absolutely. And I felt that when TJ made the second sub of bringing on Douglas Costa, and his pace and his trickery and his cutting inside troubled Vertonghen a lot. And with Nacer Chadli being Nacer Chadli, I don't think he's the best person to handle Kylian Mbappe. But again, interesting how that plays out. The two goalkeepers for France and for Belgium have been brilliant. Like you rightly pointed out about Courtois, he was amazing in the Brazil game. He was top-notch, and so was Lloris. So what do you have to say about the two goalkeepers?
Look, I think both of these goalkeepers are playing at top clubs. You look at Chelsea. I mean, whether it was around the time of a Mourinho, whether it is at the time of Antonio Conte, they've been a very compact, good, well-drilled defensive unit. So in that sense, they've been outstanding. I think in terms of Lloris, I think he's gone to the next level under Mauricio Pochettino as well. Because again, you're talking about a club that has come leaps and bounds. So I think overall it's been a reasonably good tournament as far as goalkeepers are concerned. Who would have thought De Gea would make an error of all the people? But I think Lloris again in that quarterfinals was very, very important in making a couple of good saves. Again, the France-Uruguay game was not the greatest of games that you would have ever watched. But, he was very good. Courtois was exceptional. I still think the second half, he was so very good. For all the brilliance that we talk about, a Kevin De Bruyne or a Lukaku or a Eden Hazard, I think Courtois was instrumental in making sure that they are through to the semi-finals of the competition.
So like RK has pointed out, this World Cup has driven home the point that goalkeepers are a vital part. They're just not like the fattest kid in class goes back in goal. It's not that case anymore. Goalkeepers are vital parts of football teams. They are very important. Now that we've discussed the tactics, we've discussed the coaches, how do you think this will play out? What is your prediction for the match?
It's a really tough one, actually. I mean, I'm not saying because I don't want to stick my neck out. Look, Belgium have been by far really impressive to watch. So easy on the eye, and tactically they have looked very, very good as well. And let's not forget, we've been talking about Belgium for a while now, and probably this is their biggest chance. And Kevin De Bruyne is playing for a big club. Lukaku is playing for a very big club as well. Eden Hazard has just been Eden Hazard, isn't it? So in that sense, I think the front three, not to take anything away from Mbappe, let's not forget, is still young. He's still 19. I mean, Griezmann has been fantastic. There is no doubt about that. But again, the team that bosses the midfield is going to probably do the job, which is exactly what, for all the talk about the front three doing the job, Belgium did well in terms of midfield against Brazil. And with Matuidi coming in, probably that is what Didier Deschamps will hope to do. My heart says, or I would want to see Belgium do very well, but I still think Didier Deschamps at the top, he knows what it is to win a World Cup. I mean, the big boys know what it is to do the job. Pogba, Kante, I mean, you've got plenty. So, head says France. I mean, they might want to stick around for a while to see what happens. As even if Belgium come all guns firing, just as Mexico did against Brazil, if they can hang around for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, maybe one opportunity, France can go and do the job. But look, I mean, it's too tough to call. It's too tough to call.
Absolutely. So, Pogba over Fellaini, says RK.